Hello and welcome back to the Fantasy Playmakers. What's up, guys? For today's video, I'm going to continue doing my fantasy football sleepers at each position. So the last 2 days, I've talked about running back sleepers and wide receiver sleepers. So today, I'm going to go through 3 guys that I think are being slept on at the quarterback position. If you guys watch this video and you enjoy the content, please just make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. That really helps support me a lot, and I would appreciate it. And then also make sure you let me know your thoughts down in the comment section, and I'll be responding to everyone who comments down below. But let's get right into it. The first quarterback sleeper that I'm going to talk about is Kirk Cousins. He is currently being drafted as the QB 19, and he definitely is a guy that gets a lot of hate. And I think a lot of it is unwarranted. He's one of the least flashy quarterbacks that you could select in fantasy football, but he is also just one of the most consistent and safe guys at the position. He seems to almost be a lock to finish as a high-end QB2. He does it year after year. You know, he's somewhere in that like QB 18 to QB 19 range in terms of points per game. Last year, we saw him finish as the QB 12, so that is actually a low-end quarterback 1. He averaged 19.1 points per game, and there's actually a pretty solid difference between him at quarterback 12 and the next guy at QB 13. He averaged 1.3 points per game more than that next guy at quarterback 14, and I'm actually going to talk about that guy next, so stay tuned for that. He's going into 2021 with a pretty similar offense to last season. You know, the only big kind of shakeup is that Kyle Rudolph is no longer there, but I think you're going to have Irv Smith step in, and I don't think it's going to make a huge difference in this offense. He saw some improved touchdown upside last season. He had a career high in passing touchdowns with 35. So you could make an argument that, you know, he's in store for some regression, but I don't really think you can just say that automatically because the overall touchdown distribution on the team was fairly even. You know, it's not like we saw Kirk Cousins go out and set this career high in passing touchdowns and Dalvin Cook really suffered. You know, it wasn't one of these things where he was kind of stealing touchdowns from the run game and it'll rebalance itself this year. Dalvin Cook was still able to run for 16 touchdowns last season. So overall, they just have a very solid, balanced offense. They have a great run game spearheaded by Dalvin Cook, and then you have 2 top receivers to complement Dalvin Cook with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. So I think this year, going as the QB 19, Kirk Cousins is almost a lock to outperform this ADP and is a great backup to have in one quarterback leagues or a very solid QB2 to have in Superflex. The next quarterback sleeper I'm going to talk about is Ben Roethlisberger, and there's no denying that he is out of his prime. He has definitely regressed over the last few seasons, but I still think he has some fantasy value at the quarterback position, and if this makes sense, I think he's a better fantasy quarterback than he is a real-life QB. People think that Big Ben's value is just going to tank now that Najee Harris is coming in. I understand the argument, you know, if they're going to run the ball more, that is taking the ball out of Big Ben's hands, but I don't think it's necessarily that simple. Last year, we saw Big Ben finish as the QB 13 in points per game. I think that's a lot higher than a lot of people would expect, but he put together an overall solid season, and a lot of it was a direct result from his passing volume. The Steelers were number 2 in the NFL in pass attempts per game, and Big Ben was number 3 in total pass attempts, but right now he's being picked as the quarterback 25. I hinted earlier about how I didn't really agree with the narrative that Najee Harris is really going to tank Big Ben's value, and the reason why I disagree with it is because the Steelers' offense just became so predictable down the stretch last season. Defenses just did not have to respect that run game. They couldn't get anything going, and they would just have to pass it the entire game. But Najee Harris is really going to bring some respect to that run game, but I don't think the running game is going to be good enough where it's going to have to carry the team. I actually don't think it's going to be able to carry the team. The Steelers' offensive line is very bad in the run game, but it's still very solid in the passing game. So Najee Harris is definitely going to have his moments. You have to look out for him all the time. But in my opinion, the strength of the Steelers' offense is in the wide receiver room. You have Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Juju Smith. You have these young weapons who are likely still improving, especially in the cases of Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. So Big Ben may see less passing volume this year, but I expect it to be more efficient potentially some bigger plays. He had a very low yards per completion, total last season. So I think Big Ben should still be considered as a mid-tier quarterback too this year. The last quarterback sleeper I'm going to talk about is Cam Newton, and he's probably my favorite late round quarterback pick, primarily in best ball or deeper leagues. And I'm just going to start it off by saying that I really don't think he is a good NFL quarterback anymore, but that does not mean that he cannot be a fantasy value in this season. I don't think he has much juice left in the tank as a passer. With all those surgeries he's had, I don't think he's ever going to get back to that MVP form or even really anywhere close to that, but he is still a fantastic athlete, and fantasy football scoring at the quarterback position is heavily skewed towards mobile quarterbacks, and that is exactly what Cam Newton is. Last season, he only passed for 2,657 yards and 8 touchdowns, and also had 8 picks thrown in there. And that was in 15 games, but he was able to rush for 592 yards and 12 rushing touchdowns. Those rushing touchdowns are big for quarterbacks, count as 6 points instead of 4 for passing. And those touchdowns, weren't really lucky either. I don't think you could automatically bank in the regression argument because the Patriots were calling his number almost every time they were on the goal line, and obviously it was successful. Right now, he's being drafted as the quarterback 29, despite finishing as the quarterback 18 in points per game last season, and he finished as a mid-tier quarterback 2 while playing with likely the worst weapons in the entire NFL. Plus, he was being taken out towards the end of games just so they could give Stidham some reps, see what they had there. Now, Newton has a much improved group of weapons. You have wide receivers Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne coming in. You also have Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith in that tight end room. And I know there's no guarantee that he is going to be the starter for the entire season, but right now he's lined up to be the starter. That is what we're hearing from Belichick. And until we hear otherwise, I will continue to pick Cam Newton in best ball and, larger leagues, because when he's on the field, he should be a locked-in quarterback 2, and I think is a guy who can consistently put up high-end quarterback 2 production with that rushing upside and these newfound weapons on this offense. All right, so those were 3 of my quarterback sleepers for the 2021 fantasy football season. Do you guys agree or disagree with those players? Let me know down below. Also, if you have some extra sleepers that I didn't mention, also comment down below. Let me know your reasoning. I want to hear your guys' perspectives, and I'll be responding to everyone who comments. Also, if you enjoyed the content, please just think about leaving a like on this video and then subscribing to the channel. I would really appreciate it. And then the last thing, if you haven't seen my running back or wide receiver sleeper videos, make sure you guys go check that out, and then stay tuned for the tight end sleepers, which I'm going to be putting out tomorrow. But that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.